signal into yard, Biltmore out. W44 at 123, over. 123? Yes, sir, we're here at Biltmore ready to come in. Where y'all located, over? We're in a van. Our train's tied down on one, but it's all yours, boss. All right, the train's all on one. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening. Yep. You too, bud.
All right, we got Blue Ridge Southern W44 coming to meet Norfolk Southern 123. Let's go chase some trains.
Walter for the 123 of it.
123.
Sir, about how long before y'all take off there?
I don't know. I'm going to guesstimate about 20 or 30 minutes at least.
Understand.
All right, so I'm sitting here. It's been about 5 to 10 minutes since that Blue Ridge Southern 44 passed and went into the Asheville yard, and I just hear over the radio that Norfolk Southern 123 is about 20 to 30 minutes from departure. So we're going to sit here and wait. 123 on the Norfolk Southern S line. Let's go. Hey guys, how's it going? Ross here. So I'm out in my car today, as you can probably see, doing one of my favorite pastimes that honestly I haven't been able to do that much of in the past few years, but trying to get back into it, and that pastime is rail fanning. It comes from the term rail fan, which means railroad fan, or as some call us, rail nuts, train buffs. We all love watching trains, and we all love to marvel at the power of trains. Railfans come in many different flavors, if you will. Photographers and videographers, model railroaders, people who just watch, and more. No matter what type of railfan a person may be, we all want the same thing: for trains to remain a part of our national fabric. Despite this truth, I have still wondered where this passion really came from. Is it solely due to things like shared family history, or is it perhaps deeper than that? Might we see these rail-riding behemoths as living, breathing entities? Are railfans simply willing victims of nostalgia? Thus, this film seeks to understand the existence of railroad enthusiasm in a world with what seems to be fewer trains every day. Let's get started by diving into a little bit of history on railroads and railfans. Before the arrival of mass-produced automobiles, trains ruled the world. Everything from people to lumber was transported on the backs of steel rails. The economies of each and every developing country during the Industrial Revolution depended on rail transport to thrive. Communities were made or broken by the railroads that served or did not serve them. Fast forward to the 21st century, and it would seem that railroads have lost a bit of their relevance. In the United States, nationwide passenger rail service is now operated solely by Amtrak, which, in nearly 50 years of existence, has struggled to become profitable despite government subsidies. In Europe, dedicated high-speed passenger service has become popular due to high population densities, while freight service has dwindled. In a world now built upon convenience and independence, the dominance of rail transport has, as the saying so aptly goes, lost steam. Societal changes such as these are often met with resistance, apathy, or relief. Anyone who has never relied on trains for transportation probably remains indifferent. Those who rely on medium-distance passenger rail infrastructure likely view this transition as beneficial. For railfans specifically, these changes inspire them to safeguard railroading's past, document current operations, and dream of a future in which trains remain relevant and innovative. They can be seen at railroad crossings in almost every part of the world, doing just that. Whether it is just an average freight consist or an exclusive passenger train with antique equipment, railfans will be there to appreciate whatever thunders by on the rails. They also seek out passenger experiences and support the tourist railroad industry, which often seeks to preserve a great deal of historical railroading equipment itself. Originating sometime in the 1940s, the term railfan, formerly two words, was imbued with a bit of eccentricity. Rogers Whitaker, more commonly known by his pen name E.M. Frimbo, was one of the first railfans to reach some amount of popularity. As steam locomotives perished and passenger service shrank in later years, Whitaker went on to log over 2.7 million miles on the rails in his lifetime. His persistence in such a time of decline for railroads is the same thing that fuels railfans today: the desire to see it all before it's gone. Despite any decline in railroad relevance, dedicated railfans trudge on. They watch and capture trains where they can and when they can. With the advent of the internet and social networking sites, railfans have evolved into consumers and producers of massive amounts of media online. Photos and videos that were once confined to shelves and stores are now shareable on Facebook, YouTube, and many other social networking sites. Railfans can now connect with each other like never before. So how does this sharing of media feed into railfan satisfaction? What motivates the modern railfan to share their passion with others? There is no better way to do this than by speaking with other railfans who do just that. For this project, I recruited YouTube railfans whose channels I've been following for years. If you're a railfan, chances are good you've heard of them. Without further ado, let's see who we have. First, we've got Danny of Distant Signal Productions. He's based in Florida and has more than 40,000 subscribers. Next, we've got Railfan Rowan of Northern Virginia. He's an up-and-coming YouTube railfan with over 12,000 subscribers. And finally, we have Drayton of Delay and Block Productions. He's based in Michigan and has more than 68,000 subscribers. Let's take a look at what these guys do on YouTube, their personal history with railroading, and a bit of their railfan philosophy.
Hi there, my name is Rowan. I'm commonly known as Railfan Rowan on YouTube and Instagram, and as my name would suggest, I am a railroad videographer. What's up guys, Railfan Rowan here at South Manassas, the Broad Run Airport VRE station. Alright, so my earliest railroading memory has got to be my trip on the Western Maryland Scenic Railroad train in Cumberland, Maryland. We rode behind steam locomotive number 734, and that came, of course, after a childhood love of Thomas the Tank Engine. I think that's pretty much where every railfan who's been one their whole life begins. A lot of people fall into that category, but what I specifically like about that and what I do is railroad videography that is exciting, interesting, something that I hope to bring the railroad to you. That's kind of what I want to do and present it in a fun way that's not just the train going by. I want you to feel like you're a part of it. And that's part of the adventure, part of the excitement, and part of the actual railfan action. That's kind of where I come from in the basis of my channel and the production that I do.
Hey there, my name is Drayton Blackgrove, and I am the owner and founder of Delay in Block Productions. We produce high-quality railroad media here in the United States. Our key focus is railroads in the southeast and the Midwest of the United States. Eventually, I'd like to get out to other regions of the United States, but for right now, that's my key focus region. So my great-grandfather was a locomotive engineer and fireman for the Southern Railway System out of Birmingham, Alabama. He worked from the 19-teens all the way until 1978. He was offered to be the fireman on several excursions with Southern Railway 4501. So that's really cool, and that's really what got me into railroads, was the family tie.
My name is Danny Harmon, and I am a TV producer by trade. I have been for over 40 years. I'm a rail fan by hobby. My earliest railroading memory was in the early 60s, and we moved very close to the railroad yard in Tallahassee. Used to see those trains pass there every day, and when I see that afternoon passenger train, which I guess was probably the Mail and Express, I just fell in love with trains, right then and there. People always ask that question, you know, why do you like trains so much? And I always have the same answer, is the same reason you like fishing or football or hockey. And it must be the same thing that attracts me to trains. We don't know what it is. It's something that's just in the DNA.
These statements by Rowan, Drayton, and Danny point to personal identity as a driving factor behind rail fanning. Who they are and where they came from is a big part of their passion. What's more interesting is that Danny wasn't the only one to note this unknown factor. Even as some of the primary producers of railfan media on YouTube, all three, myself included, struggled to locate an intrinsic motivator for this hobby, the seemingly metaphysical force that pulls us toward the rails and the trains that traverse them. But to me, it's just a little too easy to say that we are motivated by family history, engineering, or sharing our personal experiences. Isn't there something else at the core of this passion? I asked each of these rail fans to think a little bit deeper about why they are so passionate about producing railroad media.
At my core, I'm a history geek. You know, why do certain people like football? Why do certain people like baseball? Why do certain people like going to the beach and not going to the beach? It's really just part of who I am. I don't know why I like what I like, but I do. I do think it's important because, again, it all goes back to the history for me. I'm capturing history in motion. As long as I'm doing that, that's what's important to me. 30, 40, 50 years from now, all the trains that we see on the rails today are going to be gone. So I look at it as my mission as a historian to record at the highest level, and when I do narrations to be as accurate as I possibly can in the descriptions for future generations so that they know what came before them. Because honestly, in the next 30, 40 years, there might not even be train crews on mainline freight trains. So it's kind of crazy. I don't remember steam locomotives. I don't remember a lot of these cool diesel locomotives from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But I will be able to say I remember train crews, and I remember when the engineer would wave at me from the cab. And it's really going to be a sad day when there is no longer an engineer in the cab of the locomotive.
Passion is a hard thing to describe. It's difficult for me to tell you exactly why I am interested in the railroad. And I'm proud to be a rail fan. I'm proud to be a freak train lover. I don't care. That's who I am. That's what I've been given as a passion. So I'm a rail fan, right? And my goal is to make rail fanning the coolest thing on the planet. Because it is, to me, and to all the other viewers, to everybody else in the rail fan community. The railroading passion is important. And I'm kind of caught between a place here. I'm caught between, it's still kind of weird. And then I'm like, no, it's not. This is normal. Everybody's got their passion, like I've mentioned before. So I think there's a stigma in the railroad community that says that if you're going to work in the railroad, you can't be a rail fan. What? And I think that divide should be absolved. I think that there's no place for that divide. I know plenty of engineers and conductors who like trains, and I think that every industry needs to have somebody in it who's passionate about it.
When my son was a little boy, I bought him a few railroad videos, and we watched those together a lot. He loved those videos. And I looked at those, and being a TV producer, had already been a TV producer for 20 years at that point, I looked at those and thought, I can probably make one of these just like this. I don't know if I could do it any better or not, but I could definitely make one of the railroads in my area here. And so I produced Trains of the Bone Valley. That was our first VHS video. I think we got that released in '96. Then YouTube came along. And when YouTube came along, I saw, now this is where you find the audience. I'll tell you, producing these YouTube videos has become a real source of satisfaction to me, because when I post a new video and I watch those comments come in, it is really gratifying to see all the different comments and opinions, and hey, I love the way you did this, or why didn't you do that, or have a question about, you know, something that I did or some place that I was. Just a lot of fun. I can just spend hours reading those comments and replying to them. I recently set up my own email address so that I can even do more of those for people. But that's the thing, just being able to post that video. It's really a lot of fun doing something for people that they like so much, and something that I can really do for people. That's what I get out of it.
One more time. And good, 3 steps, yeah.
So Drayton produces railroad media for the sake of history, to ensure that future generations remember what things are like now. Rowan shares his personal railfan experience for the sake of keeping a passion for railroading alive, amidst an industry that might not welcome such enthusiasm. Danny does it for the sake of interacting with other railfans who consume the content he creates, no matter their opinion. Here, I am now more convinced that personal relationships are a driving factor for railfans. Trains may be the focus, but sharing that passion with others is really what makes it last. You can see this illustrated on YouTube in particular, where railfans consume railroad media and interact with each other. On live stream chats specifically, railfans get excited not only for the trains, but also when their buddies chime into the conversation. But I am still not completely satisfied. I think the metaphysical force I spoke about earlier has yet to be accurately justified. To figure this out, we'll have to look at railfans from an alternative perspective. Up to this point, you've heard me discuss this passion for railroading as it relates to the media that railfans consume and produce. Because without this history of media, railfans would just be watching trains. And as you have heard, there is so much more to this passion than just that. It's about preserving railroad history, sharing our passion with others, and so much more. With all of this in mind, please bear with me as I attempt to look at railfans through a more theoretical, academic lens. One such appropriate theory is Katz, Blumler, and Gurevich's uses and gratifications theory, which suggests that people consume and produce media to satisfy specific personal needs. The authors of this theory suggest that there are 4 categories of needs: diversion, surveillance, personal identity, and personal relationships. When I first heard from our 3 railfans, I began to think that personal identity was what kept them glued to railfanning, and that very well may be true. Then as we dug deeper, it became clear that personal relationships were also a factor. Railfans do a lot of what they do because other people enjoy it too. Berger and Luckman's social construction theory tells us that interest groups such as these simply cannot exist without some form of interaction, whether online or offline. People just might be the key. The problem with these theories is that they box us into preordained categories, and they once again skirt around that elusive force of attraction that railfans feel so often. Instead, let me suggest this, that this metaphysical force is one of ambiguous human desire. As Lindstedt and Brewis imply, this desire is fueled by our satisfaction of a lack of universal human needs, a theme that's also present in uses and gratifications theory. So how does desire relate to railfans? Lindstedt and Brewis claim that the, quote, understanding of desire as always having a metaphorical eye on the future, on some ideal state of unity or plenitude, is, fairly obviously, the basis for the idea that we humans are motivated to direct ourselves at some kind of eventual purpose. Whether this goal is to work smart, hard and fast, or to minimize effort and maximize reward, our actions are always, apparently, intended to achieve an end result, end quote. Keeping with the metaphor, we can think of trains as things that always have a destination, an end result. If a train is traveling on the rails, it has to be going somewhere. Trains that now live in museums may have reached their final destination, but they still serve a historical purpose. We see the rails that lead to us and elsewhere as lifelines that span not only space, but time as well. Like us, trains and rails have distinct beginnings and distinct ends. I think that railfans at their core love trains not just because they're powerful, magnificent, or historically significant, but because they represent the many destinations in our own journeys to self-actualization. Trains have this human element that many other modes of transportation do not. This personification has as much to do with trains as it does the rails they travel on. Thus, the media we create and consume in conjunction with this hobby is a manifestation of desire, the dream that we, just like trains, can one day reach our destination as well. So the next time you see someone staring at a train or standing next to a pair of steel rails, don't just write them off as a history fanatic. That couldn't be further from the truth. Rather, I hope you will see us as people with a passion for the future and the many places we must go as a society to get there. People who desire better times to come, just like you. If that doesn't convince you, I don't know what will. I'll let Danny explain.
It's that unknown factor, why we're rail fans. What is it about the rails that attracts us to them? It's unknown, and trying to sell somebody on that is impossible. So I don't think I would do it. It would be like someone trying to sell me on enjoying garlic. I hate garlic, and there's no possible way I could ever be convinced to like garlic. So there, even though my wife has tried.
Doesn't feel the same, and I'm saying I'm moving where the train is going. Yes, I'm moving where the train is going. I'm moving where the train is going. Well, I'm saying I'm moving.
To the young rail fan, I would say just do what you love. Find the aspect of railroading that you love. I have a friend who is only interested in maintenance of way stuff, and that's great. Other people are locomotive fans, what I call rivet counters. It is very important to be careful, be aware of your surroundings, and take a buddy with you whenever possible. That's my one message to new rail fans getting in the hobby. Please be safe, because there's no reason to get hurt doing something that you love.
You try it. Just try it. Sit by a track sometime, watch one go by, and just see if it doesn't pique your interest, like, huh, look at all those cars going by. look at that engine. Huh, they got different numbers. Huh, one's painted different than the other. You know, just see what you notice. See what interests you, you know? You could dive into a whole new world. If you are interested in this and you want to start doing this as a hobby, be patient. Number one piece of advice, be patient. Open your mind and be patient.
One really great way to learn about railroads is to join nonprofits. I'm a member of the Kentucky Steam Heritage Corporation and the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society. If you want to learn more about railroad history and help preserve history for future generations, most likely there's a historical society out there that has archive, a quarterly magazine, different kinds of media that you can learn about those specific railroads. So I would really encourage you to join historical societies and preservation groups that furtherly advances railroad history for future generations to come.
Thank you so much for watching my documentary on railfans and railroad media. It is my hope that this film, produced in homage to the preferred medium of numerous railfans, will serve as a long overdue exploration of the motives of this niche passion. I couldn't have done it without Drayton, Danny, and Rowan, and so many others who helped me throughout this process. If you like this film, be sure to give it a like and share it with others. Until next time, I'm Ross. Thanks again for watching.